Welcome to the HRchat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.
Chris Bjorling, welcome to the HRchat Show.
Happy 2025, Bill. It is a wonderful thing. I've experienced this with you, and we've already used up a quarter of a century. Who thought this when, because I'm ancient, I was thinking back the other day of the Y2K bug, years ago, and all of a sudden it's like, we're 25 years into this new year, into the century. So anyway, welcome to 2025.
I have spent the majority of my life in the 21st century. And I've got to say, generally speaking, it's got scarier and scarier as we've gotten into the century, actually. But let's not be pessimistic. Let's be optimistic. We've got a year ahead of us. So let's spread the optimism and share some good vibes with our folks. So very recently, we had you on the show talking about 2024 and reviewing that. So I would direct folks to that episode to get the 2 minutes summary from Chris in terms of who he is and what he gets up to. Instead, my first question for you for this particular episode, Chris, is what is one thing that our listeners do not know about you?
That's a great question. One thing people don't know. Well, I finally did it. Last year, I dressed as Santa Claus for the first time and entertained 100 kids and then my own grandkids. So there's something, Bill, that you can put in your Santa pipe and smoke. It was that moment that I did that, and it was fun. I've got this voice, ho ho ho, kids loved it. So as I look back at 2024 and something that nobody's really knows about, I did that, and it was fun, and maybe I'll do it in the future too.
I've got to say, if I was a little lad again, and you came in and dressed as Santa with your big booming voice, and listeners, you can't see this right now, but Chris is a pretty tall guy. He's an imposing guy. I would totally buy that you were Santa. I've got to say so.
Well, thank you. I will share a picture with you. Okay. I will do
that,
and you can have it. Just don't screen capture it and share it with everybody else. So,
Chris, what are you most looking forward to in 2025?
I am most looking forward to 2025. Let me just so personally, we're going to get 2 new grandkids this year, so I'm excited about that opportunity. So that's a fun thing, and getting time with those grandkids. But let's talk about the professional world, which you brought me here for. I am looking forward to the continued energy around the utilization of artificial intelligence into our HR workspace, and more specifically into a lot of our tools that are there, because it makes sense. Now, some people have, in the past have been putting tools in and pieces in place, and they do a great job. And some are just tools that are AI tools that are wonderful. But as you integrate into a talent management system, got to get the right balance. And so I'm looking at getting that right balance and equating that right balance over tool sets that I look at this year as we're going forward, and tool sets that we create for our clients too, where, what's the right balance that it's there. When you provide a performance review for somebody, should ChatGPT be the one that gives you that data, or should it be a little bit of both you and ChatGPT, or should it just be you supported with ChatGPT thoughts? So it's kind of getting that balance right to keep it personal still, while utilizing great influence that we have in this world of knowledge that we live in.
Isn't it weird to think when you and I started working together, doing episodes on this show and then starting the People and Performance podcast, ChatGPT was not a thing? Isn't that weird to think, eh?
Yeah. It's like when I first started, we were like, what is fire? We didn't know. I'm that old. No, I'm just kidding. But it is something that's there, and it's one of these reflective things. Since I have a long and tenured career, let me just share one thing. I was dealing with artificial intelligence back in the late 80s. It was actually being used for us to write courseware within a major corporation. And so we would feed it these variables, and it would kick out responses and offload a lot of course development for us at that time. So to watch it come forward is great, and to see it where it is now, which is so far advanced from where I had seen it back so long ago. It's been interesting. I've had the pleasure over the years of going to different conferences and seeing different things, and listening to Mr. Gates in person talk about some things, and seeing some technology things that took 10 to 15 years to actually come to full fruition and reach the product world. So yeah, ChatGPT, just that evolution, that from when I first, played with something in that area to what it is now. Wow. How does it tie everything together, and the continuous learning that it has, and the ability to do the, structured, requests and get very data out, and then even query the data set again. It's, I find myself sometimes, Bill, to be honest with you, inside the space, just being polite. Hey, thank you very much. Oh, you're welcome. And just like I'm having a conversation with a real human. And, maybe we're all going to be at that stage someday. So.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HRchat podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at HRgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
Okay, my next question was going to be around tech trends, but I feel like we've just done the generative piece. So let's skip over that one. Instead, how, Chris, has measuring the performance of employees, because this is something you and I focus on heavily in the People and Performance podcast, how has measuring the performance of employees changed over recent years, perhaps partly because of generative technologies, and how will it continue to evolve in 2025? And of course, the context here is that it is currently an employer's job market.
Yeah, the employee's job market is, there's really two facets here to this question that you gave me. And so let me go back to how do we measure performance? One of the biggest things that we're seeing over that is that several years ago, there was an article by a major consulting company that said, oh, we're scrapping the annual, and everybody's kind of reacted this way or that way. And, you get a mix of people that still do an annual performance or still do quarterlies or semi-annual and this and that. And it's very rigid, and it goes through that process. And then you have others that have relaxed that and they pull it together. But what we're seeing a lot is, because of the factor that we now have so many generations, that we've been able to identify different work habits, different work styles, different work needs, different employee needs, that we've kind of moved it for a lot of our clients into the concept of performance discussion or success discussions. And it's really around focusing on, hey, what'd you do? How can we help you do better as an organization? How can you do better for us? And then also, hey, where do you want to be? What's your next position? Because a lot of people are expecting these opportunities to go. And I know at the end of the year, you were asking me about some of the career management and succession planning. A lot of that has to deal with these conversations of, what can you do? How can you prepare yourself? How can you develop yourself moving forward and to go into that light? And it puts you out there. And so working inside that space is really great. Second aspect of your question there, which was, it's an employer's market. We were seeing that last year, and we didn't really address it in the 2024 wrap up, but I think it's going to continue again going into this year until we get some more sparks into our economies globally, as well as country by country, because there are a lot of people looking for positions and a lot less positions to be looked at. And so that gives the employer a little bit more of an upper hand. One thing that I am watching and witnessing, and it's annoyance for those looking for a job, but I seem to see us, or interviewers or recruiters, putting more effort in, and maybe I'm just selling it short from the past, but more effort into being more conscientious about getting better qualified candidates into a position. And that's usually done through more multiple interview bases and structured interview questions with expected understandings of responses, and a lot of shows and tells, and come demonstrate this for us. They've been around before, but I think the companies are spending more time getting an understanding of what that position is from a transparency standpoint. Because a lot of times in the past, we would, post a job and it was an outdated job description. And so you get into the workplace and all of a sudden it's not there. That's not you looked at a job on LinkedIn, or you looked at a job at a job board and it said X, and you get into the organization and it's X minus Y, Z, and A. And you're like, whoa, I didn't sign up for that originally. So I think the groups and the employers have been doing a better job getting an understanding of what it really means to be in that seat and asking better questions around it. So while it's been harder for us, or for people that are looking for employment, I think the experience is better for them. And if they focus on it and learn and figure out their skill sets better, they're going to represent themselves better to an organization. But I also think from an organizational standpoint, it really brings in a better candidate when you do the due diligence and you bring them to the table.
This episode of the HRchat podcast is supported by Nebula Academy, a technology industry-focused workforce accelerator that offers learning programs to prepare individuals for successful careers. Our approach is centered around cognitive neuroscience research, combining the latest research and modern learning methods to create informative and psychologically safe learning experiences. Our programs enable individuals to achieve career readiness and immediate impact in their chosen field. Moreover, we help businesses create positive learning experiences, increase productivity, enhance team performance, and build upskilling resources to meet the needs of today's modern workplace. Learn more at nebulaacademy.com. Thanks, and now back to the HRchat show.
Okay, thank you very much. So next question, I would guide our listeners to listen to the 2024 in review episode for a longer insight here. But very briefly, in 60 seconds or less, I'm going to challenge you in 60 seconds or less to answer this one. As Fidello looks to 2025, Chris, what key takeaways from 2024 will shape your approach to improving human performance and helping orgs achieve better results?
Yeah, for me, it's around repackaging ideas that we've had for a long time. And part of that is that repackage, rebrand, update, and refresh is the fact that with the multiple generations of the workforce that are, continuing to be here and continuing to need more time and addressing, we kind of have to change some of the ways we've done things. And I think that refreshment and update is important for us to go forward along these lines. And it's, sometimes it's term-based that we work on, and sometimes it's really, hey, how do we change the whole process, and how do we make it more fun, and how do we put it into a better position for everybody involved, not just, the older baby boomer set, or just the Gen A's or Gen Z's or Gen Y's or Gen whatevers, that are out there, getting something that's palpable across the spectrum is really important for us. And that's kind of where our focus is going to be this year, is that, and bringing AI pieces into a smarter, more intelligent way.
Very good. Okay, now it's time for a shameless plug, listeners. So I'm going to take over the microphone just for a moment, just to make you aware of upcoming content from the People and Performance podcast. So regular listeners of the HRchat show will know that I have the pleasure and wonderment to spend many an hour with Mr. Bjorling recording the People and Performance podcast. We have pretty much just wrapped up season 13, and season 14 is on its way, and it's a special season that you should absolutely check out. Why is it special, Bill? Well, for the first time in the history of the People and Performance podcast, our guests are all from the world of elite sport. So we've got a bunch of different guests who are going to be talking about some of the lessons that they've taken from elite sport and carried those over into the corporate world when it comes to improving the performance of organizations and individuals. So I do hope that you can join Chris and I for season 14. Guests include Corey Samuels, player over at Bristol basketball team, Emma Ross, co-founder and chief scientific officer at the Well HQ and former head of psychology at the English Institute of Sport, Carl Dixon, who is a terribly famous rugby referee, including refereeing quarterfinals and semi-finals of the Rugby World Cup, Zoe Thompson, who's a former British strongwoman, Steve Meller, an ex-Olympic swimmer, Felicia Rickards, and many, many, many more amazing guests. So do check out those. And then we'll be back with a normal standard season, season 15.
Bill, that is so exciting. You know, having done those interviews with you, these people are great. They've got great pearls of wisdom for the business community. And it's just fun. I mean, we talked with an Olympic medaling coach this past fall, and it was a blast. You know, they just came out of the Summer Olympics, and it was good to hear, you know, what he was saying and was there. And, lessons pertinent for all business world coming out of this stuff. So I'm excited for this season.
Me too, as should you be, listeners. Watch this space. It's coming to airwaves near you very, very soon. Okay, Chris, events in 2025. You and I were talking about this very recently when we were on a call, which wasn't recorded. We're talking about some potential events coming up in 2025. One of them will, of course, be Disrupt HR Buffalo. You and I are co-organizers of that. We'll be bringing that back to the fine city of Buffalo. That's exciting. Lots of other conferences happening this year that we possibly or probably should attend: ATD, SHRM, HR Tech, and others. Any events that you want to highlight that you are looking forward to / hoping to attend in 2025?
Excellent. Well, first of all, I'm going to start with Disrupt Buffalo. That is going to be a blast, and I look forward to it. If we have as much energy and excitement as we had last time, it was just wonderful, and I think it would be great to do. Well, I know it's going to be great to do again, but if we have that same energy, it's going to be wonderful, and I look forward to that. And that's a local activity for me. Now, SHRM, ATD, those are wonderful events unto themselves. You know, it's kind of, I was thinking the other day after we talked, and it's kind of like in the States here, going to the state fair and seeing all the prize winning things, you know, that were done over the year in different areas. Because when you go to a SHRM and you have these conference session breakouts or an ATD, and you have the breakouts sessions and you're learning and you're seeing, you know, concepts that people had a challenge and then a focus and then a brainstorming session, then a focus on how to solve that for their organization. And then how did that successfully, manifest it? And then they shared those values with us. Now, one size doesn't fit all. So it's not always I'm just going to do that in my organization. But what it does is it's a seeding or opportunity for you to learn things, learn success measures that are out there, apply, different decision tools into how you can handle a challenge you may have slightly different by thinking outside the box or by thinking into some of these examples that were given at a SHRM or an ATD. And also for you and I, it's great to be on the floor and to see the advancements with your organizations, with their tools and their support needs that are out there, and see where creative thinking's come along and somebody's taken a chance to go forward, or organization has really made a great improvement in something that they've been doing for years, but now it's on the cutting edge. So going to any of these events is great. I'd love to be at SHRM, love to be at ATD. And hopefully, as time permits, we can make that happen again this year.
Thank you, Mr. Bjorling. And just finally, how can our listeners connect with and learn more about all of the cool stuff that you get up to?
Yeah, you're welcome to join me on LinkedIn, Christopher Bjorling. It's BJORLING. You'll see me out there, not in a Santa suit, but you'll see me out there. And that's for me personally. But then our organization is www.fidello.com, and feel free to take a look at what we do for across the board. See some of the clients we worked with over the years. It's been a great range. We don't discriminate, and so you're going to see a lot of fun names there, and there's stories behind every one of those. So reach out to me and ask me, hey, what'd you do for this group? And we'd love to tell you. And I'd love to connect on LinkedIn just because you've got a story and I'd love to hear it.
Perfect. Well, that just leaves me to say, Christopher Bjorling, my good friend, love you lots. Thank you very much for being my guest.
Well, thank you, sir. And the love goes back to you. Thank you.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.